Welcome to the Ignite Podcast, the only healthcare marketing podcast that digs into the digital strategies and tactics that help you accelerate growth. Each week, Cardinal's experts explore innovative ways to build your digital presence and attract more patients. Buckle up for another episode of Ignite.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Ignite. I'm Alex Membrillo, CEO of Cardinal, and we have our two SEO experts on the line today. We have many more here at Cardinal, but these are the most renowned SEO experts in the country. I don't care what anyone says. John McAlpin, our SEO director, and the best technical SEO wizard. Also joining us, Jacqueline Green.
Hello.
She's our Associate Director of SEO. You know, the week started, for y'all's information on how good Jacqueline is at her job, the week started on Monday morning with a client's website down. They called us, blamed us, and said, we're not even hosting it. And within an hour, Jacqueline got it up, and John helped him move it to a new website platform. That's how quick they move, even when it's not our fault. So big props to them. Jacqueline manages the team here. Every time a client has a question, I send it over to Jacqueline, and then they realize how smart we are / she is, and then they want to be a client. All right, let's get into it. We did an Ask Me Anything, and we got all kinds of questions for people that want to hear from y'all. So this is going to be fun. We got a question from Madison, who works in an addiction treatment center. Madison asks, which makes a bigger impact, on-site or off-site SEO? What do you think, Jacqueline?
So they both make a really big and important impact, but if you're thinking about what to start with, we always recommend starting with on-site. Get your site in a good spot, create some really great content, and then the backlinks can come naturally. Always want to start with on-site, and then you can kind of work from there. So as you're building your content, build backlinks along the way, but always have really good content to start with.
Content is the backbone. And what do you think, John? Like, does technical matter? Do you do the technical stuff before our team goes and does all the on-site content and keyword revisions and adding blogs, et cetera?
It's chicken and an egg. You know, it's you can have great content and links, but if your site's not crawlable, it doesn't mean anything. That being said, you could have great technical SEO, beautiful architecture, but if your content's weak or you have really bad backlinks, then it doesn't mean anything. You need everything.
You got to do it all. And I know we start with the technical. It's like building a house foundation. John, you probably love this. Like, the technical stuff has become so important over the last couple of years. It used to be like, just check the box. If it's fast enough, whatever. John, I keep reading that. Peter asked, these are not my words. I keep reading that I need to build links. How do I actually get people to link to my website? Are they all like looked at the same as Google? Talking healthcare terms, like for a provider group, what's a relevant and easily achievable link to go
So right away, if you have multiple providers, or if you have, like, say, start with your providers if you're a healthcare group, get directory links from like your health grades, your Rate My MDs, get profiles set up for your providers that users can find. And for your locations, get directories set up. Use a tool like Yext or Bright Local. Just get someone to like get all of your links in directories. That's step one. Now, to get those high quality links, you got to reverse engineer that question. It's why should someone link to you? Create that good content. Figure out, create a resource, create studies, create something that someone can refer to, or a patient guide, something that is worth linking to.
If it ranks, then it gets naturally linked to. Do we use any tools to expedite link acquisition? Like, do they have to just do directories in Yext? It's great. What else? Give them the tricks.
So to actually reach out, I mean, like, really, it's there is outreach. You can't just like wait for people to link to you. As much as Google wants us to just wait and not do it, but you do need to do some sort of outreach. And so we use a number of tools looking at possibilities in the industry, looking at competitors, trying to find contact information. And we use a fancy tool called Pitchbox to help manage this communication platform. And it's a really structured, tiered process of reaching out to people with follow-ups and making sure that we're reaching out to the right people and make sure we're getting relevant links, not just any links that are in your industry.
Right, known as digital PR, right? So it's online public relations, getting guest blog posts, byline articles, all that kind of stuff. So you can submit your providers through Pitchbox. for these kinds of articles. Also, I like Help a Reporter Out. You can answer journalistic queries. That's fun. We use Fat Joe for some guest blogging. Jacqueline, we got a question in here from Steve. Steve wants to know, how long does it take to get SEO results? It's just like 5 to 7 days after you start an SEO program, right? It's pretty quick.
When Jacqueline does it.
Yeah, only if you work with Cardinal. No, I think I'm going to give the age-old SEO answer, which is it depends. It can depend on your industry. It can depend on how competitive the terms you're going after are, and who your competitors are, and how many backlinks they have, what kind of content they're working with. So it can depend. But when we talk to clients that we're onboarding, it can take between 3 and 6 months to start seeing some movement from SEO. Usually will not happen overnight. Usually give it at least a couple of months to start taking off. But if you've got a solid foundation, like you've got a good site already when you come to us, and you've got some good content that we can work with, that makes it a lot easier to get those rankings up faster.
Yeah, and then once you rank up there, you just stop, right? You fire your SEO company, good to go?
No, don't do that. It's actually, one thing I always say to clients is they're always really taken aback when they have a lot of keyword movement way back in the SERPs, but they don't really pay attention to those 1 or 2 position movements on page 1. But those are actually the hardest to control and the most important ones, because it's what's really going to impact click-through rate. So if you're ranking in position 2, be happy with that, but you have to keep working if you want to maintain that, and you have to work even harder if you want to move to position 1.
Yeah, that's the hardest thing to do, is to move to number 1. When I get to number 2, I'm number 2 for healthcare marketing agency right now. It's a pain in the ass trying to get to number 1. It takes so many links, and some things are out of your control. Google just likes something about the other site more than you. So it is you, it's not them kind of thing. All right. Mary wants to know, what's the best way, John, to display multiple locations for groups with locations across states? What's the best way to display multiple locations for groups with locations across states? Should I use an interactive maps? And I guess she's asking for the on-website locations.
Yeah, that's
right?
what it sounds like. How do you display it and retain SEO equity? So interactive maps are really fun for users. Now, people think about like this beautiful map that you can click on and move with, and that's really cool unless you live on the Northeast, in which it's like near impossible to click on anything unless you have fancy tooltips. And on mobile, it's like completely useless. But really the big thing to consider is, you can absolutely have these interactive maps with some few considerations. One is that they will hurt your load speed. And if you can sacrifice that, great, improve the user experience with an interactive map. But 2 is that make sure that these are actually links that Google can click on. If they click on an image, you can have alt text to help give context on what that image link is going to be. But really, hard HTML links are going to be important, because otherwise Google's not going to discover your location pages. You can have them in your sitemap, but we want links on the page. So if you're going to have an interactive sitemap, I suggest including some hard links somewhere else on the page, so that if someone even has a browser that can't interact with the map, or maybe is visually impaired and is using a screen reader, they can find those links there, because that screen readers won't read those maps. So think about the disabled, think about Google, and try to find some alternatives to accompany the map.
Everything always has a site speed answer, will you, John? Always.
What can I say?
Samantha has a question about GMB. She comes from a multi-location behavioral health clinic. Can you, John, clarify setting up GMB? Do I create a GMB listing for the location plus each provider?
That's an age-old question, and I love that this is from a multi-location behavioral health clinic. That's my bread and butter. I personally and professionally believe that you should not create one for the providers as well most of the time. Now, there will be some use cases where it makes sense, and but on the whole, I recommend don't, because it can create cannibalization. Think about if you're really, really aggressive with your marketing and you're doing things like review outreach. Okay, so do you send reviews for the provider listing or the location? What if one provider already has a bunch of reviews and they're outranking the location and all the other providers? really trying to support that is a marketing nightmare. And for users, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense unless they're looking for a specific provider. How I get around that is I like to have just a GMB location for the provider, but then provider listings on your health directories, your health grades, Rate My MD, things like that, and try to, because those are going to show up too. So you want to be everywhere in the SERP. And when you're looking at healthcare, directories are going to dominate most of you and your competitors. So get on the directories and try to just have one location in GMB.
What happens though? When someone goes looking for Dr. Johnson, if you don't claim that GMB and it's all jacked up from a previous practice they worked at, is that detrimental? Don't you want them all updated?
So you can claim them. You can, if they have great reviews and you're trying to merge them, you can merge the reviews, or you can shut it down. But if they have great reviews, merge it.
Merge it into what? The practice?
The practice location, yeah.
I didn't know you could do that.
Well, you have to work through Google Support. You just fill out a ticket and say, hey, and you may have to require some kind of proof to say, hey, you know what, this provider got moved to this location. They're now at this location, and this is the primary. You say, hey, the other one's a duplicate. This is the primary. Can you please merge the reviews? And they'll process that.
God, I wonder what the provider would think if they knew someone was doing it. I guess if it's an independent practice, they wouldn't want it. If they're owners, if they're like provider owners, they probably don't want that. If they're employed, who cares? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it only really makes sense if you're having multiple providers at a single location. If it's a single provider at a location, yeah, go for it. Have a provider-based location.
Jacqueline, we got a lot of questions from the Shushman presentation that we gave on GMB. People having trouble getting things authorized in GMB. Tell them real quick. There's little tips and tricks that we wrote out. That you told them. I thought that was really cool. Some of the insights you told them to the workarounds for GMB.
Yeah, so John mentioned Google Support a second ago, and I would say when you're working with GMB in general, GMB Support is going to be your friend. I think a lot of times Google will try to push you to the forums and community for support, but you can bypass that. So if you're having a hard time, especially with verification, which can be a huge pain, especially when you have a ton of locations that you have to verify through very antiquated postcard method, you can actually go straight to GMB Support and go through the process of asking online if you're able to verify in a different way. Typically what will happen is they'll just ask you for a few pieces of proof, like photos or a business card or a picture of someone working at your office. And then they will email you back. They will set up a video verification for you if they can't verify from the proof you submitted alone. And then you're able to just have a quick conversation with a Google rep, show them around your office, and they'll usually verify you within 24 hours. I don't think people know about it, but it's really easy and it's super accessible for anyone to do because you can send it to office managers, receptionists, different providers across the country, and they can all do it within a couple of days.
That's crazy, and most people do not know about it, or they wouldn't be emailing us. It's a little trick, and I'll give you this, Jacqueline. That's very smart. Jacqueline, on a similar thread with GMB, can you provide some insight into how you actually structure your GMB listing when you have a bunch of providers?
Yeah, for sure. For any GMB listing, I honestly recommend not overcomplicating it. I think that people tend to over-optimize with GMB sometimes, and GMB is great because it is set up in a way that is pretty intuitive. So use all of the fields that are there, utilize services that you're able to add to represent exactly what you offer, utilize the description to explain your services, use those kind of keywords within there, and make sure that you're keeping it consistent between your GMB profile and your other listings and presence on the internet. So with your website, for example, make sure that you're listing the provider's name the same way that you're listing it on your GMB. That will help you kind of maintain that consistency and almost teach Google who you are and help them to associate you with the correct listings that you have. So keep it consistent, keep it pretty simple. Don't stuff with keywords. Don't overcomplicate. Just use the fields and you'll be good to go.
Don't stuff it with keywords. I always say put the keyword in the title of GMB. But she's right. Don't do it.
Sometimes it works.
And
I will say sometimes it does work. Sorry to interrupt. I'm not supposed to do that. But it does. Sometimes it can work. But you still shouldn't do it because it can confuse Google in the long run. And if they see a bunch of different kind of naming conventions for one place, they might think that there are multiple places, and you might end up with a bigger mess than you started with. So play it safe and play by the rules if you can.
So you don't want to put on your GMB profile Dr. Johnson Urgent Care Provider, because it's not going to be like that on Dr. Johnson's profile page on the website. That's what Jacqueline's getting at when she nods but says something very different. All right, very fun. John, I heard something fun at lunch with a great team this week. They've got a multi-location group, big group, 200 plus locations. They're consulting with us, with them, the whole thing, fun little partnership. They're thinking about going with HubSpot as a website platform. I thought that was interesting. What do we usually do? Is WordPress multi-site? What do you suggest for a website platform for everybody out there? And you can give us the damn Jacqueline's response of it depends.
Long story short, I mean, I think WordPress is going to be your best bet for scalability. HubSpot has a lot of functionality, and I think people like it because it naturally syncs into their own CRM, and it's what they're used to. And it has that WYSIWYG feel to it. And you can drag and drop. You get when you're building out a page, it looks exactly like that. But I think that it has its own technical issues that people don't think about or really even know about on the back end. And I think scaling it out, you can have much more cost-effective solutions going with WordPress. We have clients on HubSpot that do okay, but I'm just saying our WordPress clients do much better.
Yeah, I think HubSpot is good when you need to deploy lots of landing pages or you want a similar backend. I don't know. They seem very keen on it. I want to see how it goes.
I tend to agree with John that WordPress is the best. I have worked with clients on Wix and on Squarespace, and it is super easy to use. So if that's really, really important to you, that's valid, but you're going to have some issues with some pretty basic and more technical SEO down the line. So if it's just a 2-page website and you're on Wix and you don't need SEO, keep it. But if you want to grow, I would recommend moving it.
Nico wants to know, we recently acquired another orthopedic practice in a neighboring city. How do I fold that brand, Mr. John? How do I fold that brand into our website without losing their rankings and visibility on search? Is it just a bunch of 301 redirects? What are we doing?
I mean, folding in new brands, acquired brands, is a multi-step process, even beyond SEO. But I mean, my SEO considerations is, for one, make sure you get access to their analytics and search console and try to get some benchmark data for at least like 3 months. You'd be shocked how many acquired brands don't even have analytics or don't have goals set up or anything. So when you fold them in, you have no idea what to compare to. When they say, we're doing worse, and you're like, how do we know? How do we prove that? So try to get, before you merge them in, redirect your site, try to get at least 3 months of benchmark data. Now, let's say you already have the data. Say they've already been tracking and they have this information. Great, we can hit the ground running. Create some one-to-one redirects, meaning that try to find, if you have a service page about orthopedics, try to find the most relevant page on the news site and redirect there. And once you have all of these redirects in place, you go to Search Console, and they have something called a site migration, and it expedites that process and helps Google understand, okay, this is a site merge, and it merges all the rankings and index pages over to the new site. And that is one of the best ways to retain all of the previous SEO equity.
I love it. Okay, so you need all of the historics is what John is saying. Make sure you get all the data, because the providers are going to come knocking when their brand evaporates from being acquired. So they're going to say, I used to get so many leads. So have all your numbers so that you can refute that when you do your redirects, that no, the leads are still there. The traffic's still there. We did it right. Here you go. John makes a good point. John makes a very good point as usual. So Jacqueline, quick fire here. Best free tool for SEO.
My favorite free tool for SEO is Google, because you can see exactly who is ranking for the terms that you want to rank for, and you can see relevant content opportunities, what the people also ask. You can see your local competitors. You can see your national competitors. Google what you would search for if you're looking for what you provide. Just start there. That's my favorite free tool. I don't know if you asked about paid.
Best paid tool. What's the best paid tool?
I knew that was coming. I really like SEMrush as a paid tool. I do like Moz as well for backlink research, but when it comes to keyword research, I love SEMrush. I love the functionality. It also allows you to use kind of some lightweight crawl features as well. So you can see a bit into the technical side of your SEO as well as the keyword side. So I think it's a pretty good comprehensive tool, and I use it for all my clients.
Yeah. I love SEMrush too. John, we got a question from Rachel who works in behavioral health. What are some of the things to look into before I hire an SEO expert for my website? How do we stay away from the snake oil salesman?
Ask the tough questions. Don't be afraid to ask tough questions. And my best advice is go with your gut. If something feels off and you just have something about you just doesn't have that level of trust, go with your gut. I know whenever I talk to new clients or if I'm in a sales meeting, my sales tactic is to be as honest and upfront as possible. Don't try to oversell or undersell, and just tell them exactly how it is. Try to back it up with proof, examples, and things like that. I mean, years experience is helpful, but really go with your gut. Ask tough questions. There's a million articles about what to ask your SEO expert. Look at them, make a list. Just ask the tough questions and see what they say.
Relevant experience, right? Ask for the case studies, talk to previous clients, just make sure they've worked with similar clients, right? That's the number one thing. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. Case studies are huge. I mean, they don't have case studies, or if their case studies are super generic and not specific to actual similar goals, that's not the right person.
All right. I like it. Jacqueline, one final question. What's the coolest thing that's happened to SEO in the last 12 months?
There's so much changing in SEO every day. It's impossible to pinpoint one major update that's going to rock any website's world. SEO is an always evolving field, and it's so fun just to see the minute changes happening every single day.
It is so fun. It is my favorite part of digital marketing too. It's a constant enigma. We never solve it. It never is done. John and Jacqueline, this was a blast. We're going to do another Ask Me Anything soon. Reach out to us and we'll get you answered. Don't feel like this is the last time you can ask a Cardinal anything you want. Jacqueline, John, thank you for joining me.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Ignite. Interested in keeping up with the latest trends in healthcare marketing? Subscribe to our podcast and leave a rating and review. For more healthcare marketing tips, visit our blog at cardinaldigitalmarketing.com.